Where's Winters? In Louis? Well,
Apologies, Mr. Chairman.
I got 1114. What do you got? There you go.
Hey, I made it.
Is that going? Call this meeting the Order of Finance Committee meeting is June 12th, 2023. The reason we're having this meeting is the true ups. We didn't get to those last Thursday, so we got to take those up before the next budget. I want to welcome everybody. This is unusual to have pretty much 80% of the commission at a finance meeting, but welcome. So, true ups is the final budget amendments. And Renee, I'm gonna ask you to start with the easy ones, if you will. Opioid abatement, library 115, and law library. If you'll briefly go over those. And my first question is gonna be on all of them is there anybody who went over on their budget at the account level or any particular line items, and did we have to move any money out of their particular fund balance in order to cover it? So the first one's opioid. There shouldn't be anything on that one.
No, it did not go over it. As a matter of fact, it has an increase in its fund balance because we didn't have a budget for it.
Yeah, that's
so
pretty easy. Our friends at the library, 115.
They have an increase in their fund balance. The law library will show a decrease. The revenue came in less, and they had an emergency purchase that they had to purchase for $542.
All right. And just so everybody knows, the law library, the only funding they get is through the courts. There's what, $1 fee per court case.
I don't know what the amount are,
but-
but there's a couple
But
lines.
they have a fund balance that's through there. Next one is solid waste. It looks like it's an increase of 154,000. And the next one is the sheriff's drug fund of 8,000. Any questions on that? Commissioner Slater, Commissioner Mason, Commissioner Winters? Next one is the County Fire Department, 121. When you do those, you look at them at both accounts, right, together? So it's a
Yes.
summation of the both?
Yes.
Okay. So it's a decrease of 137.
They had, yes, it's a decrease in fund balance of 137,000. They had, the revenues came in less than predicted of 107,000, and then there was a $30,000 expense there. I don't know exactly which line, but as you can see, I've tried to move the money to cover anything that's overdrawn, and I just couldn't cover that 30.
But overall, at the account level, they didn't go over.
Just as I said, you can see that there's 30,000 in the expense line that's over.
Next is debt services, 151. It's a decrease of 345.
Your revenues came in less than expected in your debt service. Your expenses, I was able to cover most of them, but if your revenues had came in correctly, and I could not cover these expense overdrafts in this, that money is about what we had to pay for the LIBOR cessation.
Oh, okay. Next one is, I can barely read this, sorry.
Yes, I know, it's very late.
Rescue, that's cash, that's not a big one. And next one is
Tri-State,
Tri-State, yeah,
I know, it's very little. I tried to get it to print bigger.
and next one is 172, it's an increase of 74,000. The only thing we paid out of there was the loan on the,
Yes,
Spring
but their
Break.
revenue, we're projecting it to come in more than what we had budgeted.
Turn the page, next one is 189, an increase of 768.
Their
And,
revenues came in better than we had projected.
right. Mayor, is that because we moved some during the year from 189 to, rescue? Not rescue, ARP? Can't remember if we did or not.
No, the revenues just came in more, and that was mainly because they get investment income.
Last one is 192, and that's the HCI, so that's kind of self-explanatory. Any questions on those particular findings? Seeing none. All right, Commissioner Winters. Next, we'll go to, this is revenue for 101, and this is
Expenses.
expenses. We'll do the revenue, and then we'll do the expenses. So on the expenses, sorry, go ahead.
You do the expenses first, and then we can explain about the fund balance, if that's okay.
We want to go to the expenses first?
Right.
All right, so is there anybody who
Do
went
you,
over?
yeah, do you want me to just hit the ones that are, we're gonna have, that are going to hit fund balance?
Yeah,
Okay.
you can start there.
Your county attorney will hit fund balance. That one was a miscalculation. When we did the budgets, the formula that calculates TCRS, I miscalculated there,
So on a benefit line.
a benefit line.
All right,
The second one is your county buildings. It shows 30,000, but only 15 will hit the fund balance, and that is because our postal charges were more than what we had budgeted.
okay,
County clerks will hit, that is, health insurance. When I calculated health insurance, I had the wrong premium for the prior year, and I only had two budgets that I was not able to pull money from another line to cover. Ours was one. Because most of all, their expenses are reserved, so I couldn't touch those.
so you had to pull $8,648 out of the fund balance.
Yes. If you go over to account number 54510, that is inspection regulations, we have to pull $22,351. That is our liability coverage. And the last one is soil conservation. It's $50. Again, it was the health insurance. Everyone else's budget, we were able to either zero out the accounts if there was an overage in a line, or it's offset by another expense in a different budget, or offset by revenues.
And I think the total that came out of fund balance of those four was the 63,000, right?
Yes.
That's, all of those things that she talked about is in yellow on those 4 or 5 pages.
Okay.
And when we go to revenue, it'll all come together a little bit better.
Okay. All the green ones, I'm going by your
Yes.
color code here.
Yes. All your green ones is you have, I'm going to use Rich's budget, not because he's overdrawn or anything, but he's got the 3. And when we pay people from 3 different budgets, it splits their benefits out among the 3. We may not have preferably budgeted for it, so we offset it inside his 3 budgets because it does come out of that. So those greens are, it's either offset by another account that they're paid out of, or it's offset by a revenue. And when you look at your revenue pages, you're going to see some expense lines. Elections, they got a grant, so their budget expenses look more, but it's offset by the revenue that they're getting.
Right, because when we get a grant, we recognize the revenue and then we recognize the
And
expenses.
see, this came in time to do it in the final budget amendments, so.
Right, yeah. Okay. Those are the greens, and what are the blues?
The blues, that's the offset in your revenues, and if you look down at your total on your fund balance, you're gonna see the blue. General fund balance increased, even with that 3,000 hit in fund balance. It's increasing $731,140.
Where's that at?
On your second page of your revenues.
Oh,
On the second page of your revenue.
yeah, 731, 140 increase.
Yeah.
Because of that grant and other things. I mean,
Yes,
All right,
You had revenue increasing by 1.6 million. You had expenses increasing by the 956, and it gave you a net increase in fund balance of 731.
all right, so with EMS, those blues right there, even though the account, I guess, was okay, those particular lines were over. Those are salary lines.
those lines are over, but we're able to offset it because we're projecting that their fund balance, their revenues are going to come in at 4.6 instead of 4.5.
So the question, I guess, even though they were able to offset because we budgeted 4.5 million, they came in at 4.655. On the salary lines item, that should be a little bit more fixed, right?
I've moved everything I could move.
I mean, if you have a certain pay rate for the employees or whatever, how could you go over on the?
Their overtime and their part-time lines are over.
I guess, Mayor, help me. What happened if they went over?
You talking about ambulance?
Yes, sir.
That was the Friday discussions.
Oh,
Normally, your vacancies will cover that. In this instance, the vacancies didn't quite cover that. The overtime and the part-time, put them together, it was more than the savings from the vacancies, if that makes sense. So it's not a real reason to your answer, but that's what happened. Does that make sense? You see what I'm saying?
well,
Normally, you would think your vacancies would take care of it. And in this case, it didn't quite take care of it. They've gotten closer to being full, and so there wasn't enough vacancies to offset the part-time and overtime.
all right.
But the good thing is collections were up. So
Yeah,
that
so
was
I
a
mean, they
good thing.
saved the day by having
Right.
a little 100,000 over, and that's good because patient charges historically have been. That's why we moved it down to 4.5. It was at 5.51, but
We've still got I projected it
So
to
I
be
understand the
1.6.
vacancies, that makes sense, that you got more, labor costs, you had some vacancies, you filled those, you were kinda counting, but we just got the expense report after the finance meeting on the day. But when you have the supervisor, and this is as of May, so we still have 2 more payrolls, right, when we got this one. I'm looking at the May expense,
Okay,
105.
we moved that up into this assistance. During this budget year, we had the switch, the changeover for directors, and some of it's got paid out of the wrong line, so I was able to correct that. That one is corrected. That overdraft is not there. So I've fixed that one. That one was just paid out of the wrong line.
Okay, so basically, if you have one person paid out of line, like elected officials and whatnot, what I was thinking is you take the amount divided by the number of pay periods.
You do. But again, when we started this budget year that we're in, we had one director there, an assistant, and we changed those, remember? That one director went to a different department, the assistant moved down into the director, and those lines got paid. Payroll did not get told to move these, so I have fixed that
Okay.
internally.
You
So
follow what she's saying?
I do, but I guess and I'm not being critical, but if you had a change in personnel and their salary at the annual level was different at the time of a new, that transfer or that change, wouldn't you have gone in there and made the adjustments then?
It should have been, that's why I'm saying I had to fix it because it didn't get, payroll did not get notified of that change on that one. So that one has been fixed. Our big problem is our part-time and our overtime lines.
And correct me if I'm wrong, the numbers are significant. I mean, the part-time, you budgeted 210 and it came in at 307, and this is as of May. So there's 160,000 over there. That eats up your patient charges, right there.
Well,
So you had to go get money from other lines,
I did.
other than your revenue being over.
I did. Like I do everybody else's budget, when I go through there and a line is overdrawn, I go hunting for money.
So
And I call and go, delete every PO that you can delete.
was the
I
money
take
that you used to cover those lines all from the same account?
Yes.
All right. Any questions, Commissioner Slater, Commissioner Mason, Commissioner Winters? Mr. Offer, welcome.
Cindy.
So that's the expense side of, I'm sorry, Commissioner Slater, I apologize.
So what are they going to put in place to see that this doesn't happen again?
Guess you're asking me that, right?
Well, I'm asking whoever wants to choose to answer
Well,
it.
we can't say that it won't happen again because it's one of those things where you're going to staff the ambulance no matter what's budgeted, so to speak. Again, if you had 30 vacancies like the sheriff, it doesn't run into a problem. But when you only have 4 vacancies, you're getting fairly tight. But when you look at next year's, the budget's going up quite a bit for part-time. It's also going up quite a bit for overtime. With those 2 increases and the fact that there'll still be some vacancies, hopefully that will average out. That's what usually happens. It's usually close, but usually it averages out. This year, it didn't. And changing those others, like you were talking about, you've got the 2-week lag time in payroll at ambulance for whatever reason. And the switch date, when I switched the new supervisor from assistant to supervisor, in hindsight, wasn't the exact perfect switch dates why that occurred. The money's still there between the 2 lines, but just not in the right supervisor line. But anyway, I don't know if that answers your question or not, but those two lines are increased in the new budget. That along with vacancies, hopefully.
How many I'm sorry.
So they would have been over in April, probably in March too. So should they not have brought a budget amendment to correct that in March and April?
They should have in May at the latest, you're right. That was part of the discussion Friday also, but you have a lady that's doing a good job, but she's new, she's not going through a budget. She was told just that, and next year she will. Don't wait till the last minute type thing. You know, historically over the years, a lot of people did that, and we've tried to get them to not do that anymore, and she didn't understand that, I guess. So yeah, that's why we were having to address it at the last minute.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, Commissioner Winters.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Election Commission, what grant did they get at the end?
Machines.
They got one for, yeah, for voting machines.
Got a
I'm
grant?
assuming it's voting machines, it's some kind of machine.
No.
No,
No.
this one
No.
is a grant from the
Yeah,
state.
this is from the states
from-
requiring them to go to a new machine. So the states, I didn't think it'd be in this early.
Well, and I asked her about it, and they said, no, they wanted it put in and they wanted them spent before the end of the year.
Yeah, the
So-
grant actually expires June the 30th,
So
but it
she has
just
to-
came in last week.
Election Commission has to choose their machine. I heard that they were shopping, so to speak.
They've known it was coming, but
Yeah,
like I said, the contract itself didn't come till last week, and it says on there it ends June the 30th. So we hurried up and put it in like this.
Yeah. Commissioner Slater, just make sure everybody's on the same sheet of music. This is for the new machines. So the old machines with a little red button that we're all familiar with is out. And they're gonna get new ones. It's gonna have a little paper trail or something like that. They showed it to me. The art money is for the polling books, which will be at the precincts on election day.
So I have another question.
Please.
So Renee, when you said that you've closed out all their POs, they have no money for office supplies, tuition, travel?
We close out, we have them to go through, get rid of any POs that they've got that they've not spent or that they don't project that they're gonna need before the end of the year. So if they've got money out there that they've not spent yet, they've not ordered anything, they close them and we use it to offset where they have overdrafted their account.
Pardon? I am.
Yeah, because of this end of the year issue that we were having, they were asked if there's any that's not already, there could be things out there that's spent, and the PO's still hanging, but they were able to close several that people do at the end of the year that could wait. So they closed several POs, which helped a lot too. So it was a major number with that particular one this year for several reasons, not for any bad reasons, but yeah.
Good. Well, that's an exercise I think we should do every year is try to go close out what can be closed out.
Well,
I mean,
here's one
we've
thing.
always said that PO's hanging out, and what, a couple of years ago you went to
1 year.
18 months or something like that?
1
Well,
year.
the one problem you do have to look at, especially in some of these bigger ones, we tell them not to spend money, especially for any big purchases, until January, till taxes have rolled in. That's one of the reasons that we've not had to do any interfund loans, trans loans, in several years, because we tell them to hold off.
Anticipation notes, right?
Anticipation notes, yes. So we hold off on any big purchases. So they're after January, they're trying to get everything that they need in, and they PO stuff. And yes, we do, we haven't got those closed this year, but I've got to get Emily trained on doing that so she can go through and run these and go, you've got these POs that are a year old, we're closing them unless you're waiting for whatever it is to come in.
The last one, well, before we get to the last one, though, Lori, if you'll help me out on remembering, next, I guess, February 24, we did this one year where Lori and I went through and kind of looked at the burn rate and we sent out an email asking, are you okay? Then we got flack for it. Was that about 2 or 3 years ago we did that? But I think we probably go back to that. In February 24, Lori and I will go through and look at the burn rate on, especially the salary lines item, to see Because you should be able to predict that with fairly accuracy, unless there's some major change, which they would know about, and we can make some adjustments before we get to true-ups. Agreed? I mean, so we'll do that next February, but neither here nor there. On the revenue side, Mayor, it looks like the blues are, patient charges is up. Work release charge for board. I went from 0, I'm sorry, that's service charge.
And these are the ones that, you know, we bring in on every finance for the sheriff's department that has his service charges, and we're looking at covering that they've spent so far, that the checks have not come in. When those checks come in, they will just be deposited straight into the fund balance when I
Right.
close the fund balance.
County clerk was up 100, this is hard to read, I'm sorry.
I'm
Is that-
sorry,
Is that
it is.
115?
Yes, she's got 15,000, and that 15,000 offsets the mailing of that's part of that postal overage, the mailing of the tags.
So I may not ask this question correctly, but when you go and you look at the county clerk, right, Donna, and excess fees, she had 0.
Donna does not turn hers in until the end of the year. So she will be turning in, she told us she would be turning in 115.
Yeah, it's,
But she's supposed to turn it in if she has not, after 90 days of expenses. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but none of the fee offices can wait till the end of the year to turn it in. They have to do it 90 days. The trustee, the register of deeds, all of them do it that way. Am I right or wrong?
they're supposed to turn in anything other than salaries to keep back the 90 days for salaries, you're right. Usually it ends up being a true-up at the end of the year. Like in Donna's case, we thought she would have 100 and it's 115, but we didn't know that until June.
And from our point of view, is we get the May report, the May revenue report, and it still has 0 on it.
Yeah.
And everybody else. All right. Next one is that other state revenue?
That's, the election commission, that's
Okay,
that
so-
grant.
So nobody else was above their revenue.
Well, there
revenue
was no other
projection.
revenues that offset expenses.
Okay, so you only marked the
I
ones
only
that,
mark the ones that offset the
okay.
expenses.
So later on, I'll go through and get a report on who actually brought in more. Because sales tax was more. We predicted 8.6 and it came in at 9.2. Okay.
Yeah, like I said, I'll total 1.6 million in excess
All right.
above.
So the last thing is that 731,000 and some change, an increase, that's your fund balance on 101. So you can increase the beginning fund balance in the budget by that amount, right?
We've already got them figured in the new books, don't we?
Yes, I've already keyed in the estimated columns of your proposals. That has the budget amendments already.
That's what I'm
in,
saying,
so-
is that
so,
this
yes.
731 is going to be our,
Yeah.
is going to be added to the fund balance beginning 101. We didn't see that last Thursday because you didn't even have this number
Right,
yet.
but you will in the new books.
You will
In a little while.
in a little while. All right.
It won't, I don't know that it's that black and white of 731 difference, because there's a few little changes in there, but it is
But
an
a
increase.
731 increase in the fund balance, and we were basing our expenses off the number that was in your proposal, so we got 731 in addition,
With some other
which should help
changes.
the percentage you were talking about the other day.
True, but there are 2 or 3 other changes in there too, so you won't see probably 731 if you're trying to confirm it. 731 went up, but there's also some other things in there.
Some new expenses?
Well, for example, the 2 you all approved, but there are 2 or 3 things, I
5,000.
believe, from memory, I'm not sure, but
Yep.
yeah.
All right.
That $150, that 150 became 161, by the way. You gotta do Social Security on that. So your amendment was incomplete. I'm just kidding with you, Cindy. So that comes out of your payroll, your pay raise too, yes.
0 times whatever, right? All right, so we're gonna take these all together as one vote. That's all right? So we got the true ups there, the end of the year. After this, and the county commission votes these in, there aren't any more amendments to this current budget, right? But if there are, we'll need to know. All right, do I have a motion to accept the true ups or the end of the year amendments as presented? Have a motion from Commissioner Slater, have a second from Commissioner Mason. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. And that is all there is on the agenda. Is there anything else? Mr. Thompson, please, welcome to the Finance Committee. Good to see you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. 3%.
3% across the board for county employees, except me and you.
Yeah, 3% across the board for county employees. Does that mean county commissioners? It always has. How come it didn't this time?
Our friends up in Nashville made a decision on that. I think it goes
Okay.
something like, if we do a increase, the increase doesn't go into effect until the next election,
Okay,
which will be September 1st, 2026.
can we set their salaries too?
Not at this time.
Well, let's write them a letter and see if we can set their salaries. If they're gonna try to set ours. We've had that 3% for so many years, and I don't know what the problem is. Groceries went up.
Mayor, you want to add anything to that? Probably not. I think that's the way it was explained to me. We talked about that the other day. It's all 95 county commissioners are affected by this. Yeah, they come in what, September, when Charles and those guys come? Right. But remember, it's the county commission, it's the legislators who makes the decision, right? So when we talk to our legislative body, Representative Dan Howe, Representative Kevin Raper, and Senator Lowe, we should be asking them. Chairman Cry.
Why don't we consider going ahead and passing the salary, even though we can't receive it until the next election? It'll just add up, then we'll get it all at one whack.
My understanding is you've got to do a formal resolution now, but you can vote to set the salary, whatever you want it to be, for September the 1st of 26. So,
I need to think about that a little bit more,
Yeah.
a lot more. Not this time.
but
Anything else? Mayor, please.
you were probably hesitant that I would say this, but it's not always been there. I was a commissioner and we never got raises. My predecessor never gave raises. When I came in, I thought that was not right, so I started treating commissioners just like other employees. So it's always been included in there. But then a couple years ago, the law was changed that said you can only do it effective the next election. So that's where we're at on it now. I think you got it last year because it was after the next election, if I remember right.
We did.
But you can't now for 3 more years.
Yeah. All right, I think it's time, the next thing's up. So if there's nothing else, we are adjourned. Thank you so much.